We just can't have enough zombie takeout in this world.
What's up? Welcome to episode 279 of Zombie Takeout, the B-movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listeners submitted. This is from Bruce Sardi on our Facebook page in reference to last week's episode, our review of Fifth Element.
Two weeks ago.
Oh, sorry, 2 weeks ago, yes. He said, Uncle John mentions in this episode that the beginning of the movie is so quiet that he thought his speakers were not functioning. What is an interesting juxtaposition to that thought is that the first 30 seconds or so sounds fantastic on a nice surround sound setup. And I can see that once the sound actually gets started, but you see those first couple of frames without sound, and it was even, an official, copy that I bought on Amazon, but I still was concerned that it wasn't functioning right.
Well, I wonder if there's things you can hear, on the surround
Perhaps,
sound.
Perhaps, yeah. If you really have it blasting, I had it in earphones, so maybe there was something I didn't pick up because I wanted to keep it a bit lower.
True, I had it in headphones too. I usually usually watch it in headphones. This one I did.
I actually don't have speakers for my computer. Anyway, also Danny Meeks on Google Plus in reference to the trailer for this movie, but not on our page, on my page, because I posted a thing saying something along the lines of I don't know what to make of the movie, and given my tastes in movies, that's saying something. He said, I'd watch it. Looks tailor-made for the podcast, too. And I replied saying that it is really made for us, but I hope that you have, meaning Scott, have more notes than I do. Otherwise, it's going to be a very short episode because I was too busy trying to process the movie to type too much.
Well, yeah, that's it's my second time around, and first time was way long ago, and I kind of remember the same thing, just being like, huh?
And to that, Danny replied saying that he'd try to watch the movie before he listened to the episode, which in this case I definitely think is a good idea. So we can all try to put our heads around it together.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 1986, True Stories. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by your local mall. Same as it ever was, same as it ever was.
I was doing the hand bouncing thing while you were...
it reminds me of a TAS episode.
I think that even goes back further than that. I think that was...
I'm talking about you were reciting the lyrics to, was it Romanian Light? During our Dante's Inferno bit, and I started doing that to crack you up.
Oh, okay. All right.
It might have gone back to OCC as well.
Yeah, I thought that went back all the way
there. Yeah, it probably does. Incidentally, I happen to be, and this was totally not planned, I'm wearing a TAS shirt right now.
No kidding. You're the type of guy that wears the shirt of the band to the show.
Actually, I'm the guy who... This isn't even wearing the shirt of the band to the show. This would be like if Tom Morello wore a Rage Against the Machine shirt on stage with Audioslave.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess so. That's really weird. All right. And also brought to you by John Goodman. Is there anything he's not good in? I mean, seriously, even Blues Brothers 2000.
I really try not to remember that movie.
You're better off for that.
Yeah.
All right. So, the story is wafer thin here.
There's a story?
There is a story to this movie. Really what this is, of course, so many bands did this where they just, they wanted to put some music videos together or do a collection of that or whatever.
Oh, I should point out that this begins a Rockstar Vanity Project trilogy. Yes, I managed to find 3. Next week will also be our Prince tribute episode, so do the math on that one.
But I don't know if this goes for much as Vanity is just...
it is.
A statement,
David Byrne directed it. He also wrote most of it. He brought in, was it Stephen Tobolewsky, I think, and his wife to write a script, and then he rewrote almost the entire thing. He kept the framing device of this small town in Texas celebrating their sesquicentennial. I'm going to trip over that word. And he kept a few lines of dialogue, but that was it. The rest of the script is entirely Byrne.
So, I mean, that of course is even a wafery thinner plot.
Yeah.
But the plot here, of course, is you have this strange narrator visitor calling in, played by, of course, David Byrne, who's driving into town and visiting and kind of peering in on the lives of the residents of the town. And the story really follows, of course, this rich bachelor who's trying to find love somehow in the modern world. And there's this, of course, sesquicentennial, was it?
Sesquicentennial, I'm going to say. I think it's 200 years.
No, that would be a bicentennial.
You're right.
I think this was like 150th anniversary. Okay,
that makes sense.
And which, of course, who cares? But that's sort of the point.
Yeah.
And
what did we even do for 150? Anyway,
I don't know. But yeah, and there's this sort of talent show, or no, I guess it was
sort of
talent show celebrating the town and a parade, and hilarity ensues.
Yeah, imagine like the cheesiest film strip you saw in high school, talking about a town, or kind of explaining how a town works and what people do in a town, or better yet, in a business, explaining what everyone does in a business, the kind that MST3K used to make fun of all the time.
Right.
And then filter that through the mind of David Byrne. And if you're a Talking Heads fan, you get that.
And David Byrne keeps this, very earnest, cadence going throughout the film, where he's the narrator and some things are exciting. So, I mean, I think what nailed it on the head were some of the commenters. One of the commenters on IMDb was confused whether this was sarcastic or whether he was, I don't know, sincere.
Yeah, it's Byrne. He's sort of somewhere between. I've been an on-again, off-again Talking Heads fan for years, ever since the 80s. In fact, I remember when this movie came out because I saw the video for Wild Wild Life, and I was amazed that it was a Talking Heads song with a guitar solo. And I had just started playing guitar like the year before, so... Now, I like Weird.
Yes.
And I love Weird. I mean, Upstream Color, Rubber, and Buckaroo Banzai are among my favorite movies. Fully Cooley is my favorite thing ever. I'm obsessed with it. It is notoriously weird, and I loved it for that even before I figured out what the story was about. And I point this out so you all understand the gravity of what I'm about to say. This movie was almost too weird for me.
But it's not like weird that, there's space aliens coming in or anything like that. He's just taking a look at American life.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think if I recall correctly, I don't have it in my notes, he got the idea from tabloid headlines.
Yes. The kids that towards the beginning that were guffawing over tabloid headlines, which I, of course, have no way relate to at all.
Was it the Weekly World News?
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, my dorm one semester just had all of these Weekly World News, like, headlines and photos on it.
Uh-huh.
It was a beautiful montage.
I have a Weekly World News hat. I think you have a t-shirt. We were both very well acquainted with the Weekly World News back in the day. I think I remember you having a t-shirt, yeah.
This picture of Elvis as he looked, if he were still alive. Hilarious stuff. But anyway.
Somewhere around here, I probably still have a copy of the Weekly World News that on the front page says Elvis is coming back on February 25th, my birthday.
Oh, what about the 900-foot Jesus visiting the UN?
Mm-hmm.
Hilarious
of
stuff.
Course, Bat Boy. Anyway.
Yeah, that was the shirt, I think. Bat Boy. But anyway, so yes, he took the idea for some of these stories from the Weekly World News, but none of them were too far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
He gave them all plausibility,
yeah.
which makes it all that much more weird.
Yeah.
because he wasn't going for broke. He wasn't going for shock.
Well, that's kind of always been Byrne's shtick, is he doesn't go full weird. He just goes slightly off kilter, so it really fucks with you.
Right. When you go this weird and you still have plausibility to it, you're left with like, what the fuck is this?
But even if in his music, if you think about Talking Heads, it wasn't, noise. It was very plausible pop music.
Right.
It was just slightly off kilter.
Right.
So it really messed with your head.
I mean, even when they were kind of doing their own take on punk, it was punkish, but it was off. And there was something, you're just like, wait a minute, why don't they just go full on, They're singing about a psycho killer.
The bass line in Remain in Light, same as it ever was.
My favorite album.
The song, same as, is that the song too? Same as it ever was?
No, it's Once in a Lifetime.
Once in a Lifetime, thank you.
Yeah.
That bass line, it's literally 2 notes for the whole song. It's kind of amazing that Tina Weymouth could do that without getting murderously bored.
That whole album is, like, cross-eyed and painless and Born Under Punches. It's a fantastic album.
Now, I went into this expecting Christopher Guest meets David Lynch just based on what I'd read about it. It did not disappoint. This is basically Waiting for Guffman if Lynch had directed it.
The one thing I was wondering throughout this, how did the other band members feel about this?
Well, most of them appeared in it. Chris Franz and Jerry Harrison were in the Wild Wild Life video. I'm sure Tina Weymouth was too, but I didn't happen to catch her.
They were in the Love for Sale video.
Yeah.
The Love for Sale and the Wild Wild Life were almost, the exact
pulled
final
directly
release
from
videos.
Yeah, from the movie, which I wasn't that familiar with Love for Sale, but I am obviously, like I said, very familiar with Wild Wild Life, and I was really shocked that it literally is just pulled directly from the movie.
I think Wild Wild Life, when the final release, they just have some shots of Byrne singing instead of some of the karaoke people.
Because there's one of the karaoke
guy,
he jumps up and kind of does a split, and you have the audience noise and the sounds of his feet, which are filtered out. You just have the recorded audio for that.
Right.
I think most of it is in the video, including Tito and the Prince impersonator. And
yes.
Speaking of Tito, always nice to see him in a movie.
Yeah.
Tito Larriva. He's done a lot of stuff with Robert Rodriguez and various other movies. He has a recurring role in this movie. Weird to say recurring, but it feels recurring, even though it can't really be recurring in a movie.
Well, the other part is, the point of doing something like this usually is for a band to promote their album.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 3 songs in the whole album that are actually performed by the Talking Heads.
Yes. In fact, the original vocals from the movie, performed by various cast members, were never released. The released soundtrack for this is just Talking Heads. It's all Byrne doing the vocals.
Yeah. So, that's where it leaves kind of the vanity project behind. Because normally it would just be, hey, this is our music, and the music is kind of an afterthought almost.
Well, I was thinking vanity project in the sense that he did all of this himself. It's his baby, and it was more to show off that he can do things other than music than to sell his music.
But yet I don't think he's ever directed anything else after this.
I checked, he did a couple of documentaries.
Okay.
But you mentioned Talking Heads and how they felt about it. Actually, they had to pass on Live Aid because of this movie.
Wow.
Byrne's involvement in the movie happened at the same time, and so they couldn't play Live Aid, which is kind of big.
Yeah.
The movie starts with this sort of history lesson about the town and, about the Native Americans and whatnot. Or First Nation, I think is the correct term now.
I kind of wonder if that's the point of this. I just be speculating here because it's, it's what he begins with.
Yeah.
And the song City of Dreams in the end, the third song that's performed by them, is about also.
Yeah.
It's like, we've taken this land from them, and this is what we've done with it.
Huh. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's kind of how I feel he's talking about.
And I'm wondering how accurate all of that history is.
I'd forgotten Texas was essential to the tech boom,
Mhm.
right? Or just the tech
Yeah.
industry at all. I mean, yeah, we Texas Instruments stuff,
Mhm.
the TI, or as they were called, trash 80s.
Yeah. Well, but those were huge. I mean, the original, the initial model for the home computer was the Texas Instrument calculator. It kind of evolved from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Texas Instruments particularly was huge, and obviously they're in Texas. I don't know if there was anything else in the area. I don't know if it was like an early Silicon Valley kind of a thing.
I don't even know when Silicon Valley really became Silicon Valley.
90s, I think.
Oh, I think the term dates back to even, I think, sometime in the 80s, but
Okay.
how much could they have really been doing
Yeah,
back then?
exactly.
I mean, there were some software companies out there, but it's nothing like it is, everyone flocked there in the 90s
Right, of
and really
course.
built it.
Now, speaking of the technology part of the movie, they talk a lot about Texas Instruments and sort of the tech boom of the time. And there's a line in the movie that for a while dated it, but now doesn't really anymore. One of the characters says that Jobs used to be the head of Apple.
Oh, yeah.
I totally forgot that he left there for a while in the 80s.
Did you use quotes when you said left there? Because, I mean, they
Oh, yeah,
kind of,
because he left there and he came back, and then, once again, he used to be the head of Apple.
he was kind of showing the door.
Yes. Well, in that sense, yes, of course.
he left
Yeah.
Apple.
Good point. Good point. And then we get to the first really weird part of the movie, because it wasn't that weird yet. There's this whole green screen section of Byrne in this car. I want to say it's a LeBaron, like very 80s style boxy convertible.
They really like the red convertibles in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a few of them, actually.
And he's talking about how they name different kinds of highways there. And there's this one bit where he's like moving the steering wheel. And I don't mean like turning it, I mean actually moving it, like to show that it's actually not really attached, I guess. It's just this weird monologue to camera from a car that is just incredibly quintessentially David Byrne. And it's the first real great mindfuck of the movie.
Well, and it's so well intercut with the real footage of them driving down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, so they didn't have to do this.
No, no.
I mean, maybe the wind would have been too much for the sound to have taken it, so that's the only reason why I could think they
Perhaps.
did do it.
Yeah.
But it does result in quite a mindfuck, because you're like, no wait, he was just there driving, and now
Yeah.
now they're in this crazy green screen.
And it kind of feels like they're doing it deliberately to mess with you.
Which could very well be true.
Yeah. Again, this is the part where it really gets weird. And another part where it got, again, almost too weird for me was the fashion show.
Oh, yes.
Because he's walking through this mall, giving a monologue about malls, and, being from Jersey and having spent a lot of time in the local mall. It made me realize exactly how much every bloody mall looks the same.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been to malls in other parts of the country, and it's just kind of like, holy shit, it's all the same as it was. Yeah, that was pretty disturbing.
So he meets up with John Goodman's character, and they walk along to this fashion show, and it got weird there. Because, it starts off with a normal mall fashion show, which is a thing they did in the 80s, actually in the 90s and thousands too.
Yeah, I'm sure they work those things in. And they do like wedding shows and stuff.
Yeah. And then the fashion got weird.
Oh, yeah.
It starts off with this group of people in these sort of yellow raincoats, very, Gorton's Fisherman style. And then it's like AstroTurf on a suit, and then tentacles, and
I think that shows he's not just criticizing, small town America. He's criticizing, what passes for fashion couture,
Right,
I mean, because you see that all the time. Anytime you see a clip of a fashion show, you're like, who the fuck's going to buy that?
Oh, yeah. It's wearable art, basically.
Right.
It's not meant to be actually worn by, average people.
Fabrical masturbation? I don't know. What is it? But when he goes to the mall at first, does that not give you chills, that part where he's talking about how people, people don't care. They'll go and shop here. They don't
Mm-hmm.
care. And this was probably, people thought that he was nuts, saying like, what's this mall going to do to small
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
business?
Especially in
But
'86. Yeah.
right, and I'm sure it did make. And there were some places that malls probably killed a number of them from the
Mm-hmm.
'70s.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's talking about our own suicide.
Yeah.
Our own financial suicide, very casually, and like, folks just like this kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
And here, in this area, you have, downtown Tom's River, which is all of these little stores that are largely abandoned, and
Yeah.
then the local mall 10 minutes away. It really kind of perfectly speaks to his point.
And now we have the whole debate about, you know, service jobs and the minimum
Mm-hmm.
wage level
Right.
and all that.
Yeah.
But that's how we've gotten here,
Mm-hmm.
because it used to be, we always hear, it used to be kids just doing this. No, 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 no. It used to be there was a person, and that was their career and
Yes.
livelihood, and they own the fucking store,
Mm-hmm.
not some corporation that just franchises things out.
Right. Right.
That you were a tenant of the, corporation, that you have to pay back a cut of, you know
Mm-hmm.
that's how we are in the situation that we're
Yeah.
in now. And yeah, it's exactly what Byrne is talking about. It's, this giant mall and just crushing small businesses.
Mm. So this is basically things get weird. Byrne makes a salient point. Things get weird. Again, very much like his music.
I think some of the stuff, knowing what we know now 30 years later,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like it's a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the dinner scene where he's going, I mean, you want to talk about it getting weird. He just goes on about all this stuff, and back then it must have seemed insane.
Yeah.
But it all came true in
Mm-hmm.
the end. Like, where does work end, and you begin?
Yeah. And he was basically saying, there used to be weekends, I think was how the monologue ended.
Yeah.
Now we're working constantly.
Yeah.
And then there are moments where it's just weird without making a point, like Goodman's character, who basically spends the entire movie trying to find a wife.
Yes. Did you notice in front of his house he has a sign saying "Wife Wanted" with
Yes,
lights on
yes.
it? Okay, I really like that.
And he has this phone number, 844-WIFE. Weird to see a phone number in a movie that wasn't a 555.
Yeah.
But
How they got away with that? I wonder if they bought the number.
they must have, because I'm sure plenty of people have tried to call it.
Yeah.
But there's this one scene where he's on a date, and his date starts talking about how she was born with a tail.
She's just known in the credits as the lying girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this character pops up throughout the movie and just tells the most ridiculous lies. But she's saying, how she was born with this tail, but it was removed, but it gave her this power. and she's kind of a conspiracy nut. And Goodman's reactions to her were brilliant.
It's amazing what you can hand John Goodman, and he still shows up like a fucking trooper.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And this movie, of course, I can't see any other actor being like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a scene where there's a bunch of commercials as well. And these are legit commercials from the time. It's right before Love for Sale.
Mm-hmm.
They must have paid to use these commercials.
Wonder.
I mean, I don't know if you have to pay to use a commercial, but Byrne literally took the Remington Razor ad and a few others and just stuck them in his movie, which again, weird.
Well, the whole point of the song "Love for Sale" was they wanted to make a song off of commercial slogans.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just noticed that hearing it this time. I don't know if I ever connected that before. And then we get to what is effectively the climax of the movie. The Parade of Specialness. A title that really made me cringe a bit, given my situation and how the term special has been applied to me.
Really?
It's been used as a euphemism for disabled many times. So that made me cringe a little bit.
Break our backs to try to find euphemisms for things.
But that whole scene and even the talent show portion really screamed Christopher Guest to me.
Oh, definitely. The whole thing did. Like the
Well, the movie in
stage in the
general
middle
did,
of
but
nowhere.
that section particularly reminded me
Yeah.
so much of Guffman. Incidentally, there's a song in the talent show called Radiohead, which is where the band got their name, the band
Of
Radiohead.
course. Right.
And I'm really curious, I was going to look this up. Have they ever covered it?
I don't know, and I was trying to find out why they took that particular Talking Heads song.
Tom York is a Talking Heads fan, I guess. So
I guess so.
I can kind of see that, actually, knowing his music.
Too, yeah.
So I guess he just really likes the song, or they were desperate for a name. You know, having played in a number of bands myself, and have had to come up with a lot of names. You really pull anything that sounds good.
They had to come up with the name quickly for some reason.
Okay, probably like had a gig booked.
They signed a record deal, and for some reason the company was saying you can't keep the current name they had.
Probably somebody else used it.
Yeah, and they had to come up with something really quickly, and they just came up with the Radiohead. I don't know.
Maybe he was listening to the soundtrack and said, okay, that'll work. But I just couldn't help but wonder if they'd covered it.
You would think so. I mean, you would think it would be like Big Country playing Big Country.
Exactly. It really should have been on their first record. I mean, it could have been. I forgot to check. One last bit of trivia. There are 50 sets of twins that appear in the movie.
Really?
I saw maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't know where the rest were.
Wow, that is really weird.
Also with the talent show, the yodeler with the auctioneers. It really had an operatic quality to it.
It was out there, yeah. Commerce and art merging together.
Yeah, effectively.
That
was, I didn't even catch that point.
That is David Byrne.
Wow.
He's good. He's good.
Damn.
I mean, you could watch this like several times and probably pick up new things in the background.
Wow. And I need to go back and listen to some Talking Heads and, of course, revisit the album he did with St. Vincent, which I think was one of the best things he ever did.
Oh my God, yes. I was hoping that would come up in this. I mean,
I was trying to crowbar it in somehow.
I mean, his solo career, I kind of missed. Nothing like grabbed me, but yeah, the St. Vincent thing is on par with any of his Talking Head stuff. Honestly,
it's on Spotify. Look for it.
And just because it's so different. I mean, they didn't make a rock album really. They just took every instrument known to man almost.
Yeah, they're very David Byrne. I mean, St. Vincent has their stamp on it.
Oh yes, she does. Yeah,
but it's still very David Byrne.
Either.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it. Actually, I think that was the first time I'd heard of her.
Oh, same here. And then when I started listening to her stuff around that, it was like, whoa. I could see how they could fit together very easily.
Very easily, yeah. All right, I'm done with my notes.
I am as well.
No sequels or remakes because there weren't any, and there shouldn't be.
You can't even get the Talking Heads together in a room.
They had to. They did one last album after he left. Put it that way.
I mean, they did one album after this. Actually, this was True Stories was their second.
Well, no, I'm saying they did an album after Byrne left. That's how much they liked him. They didn't quit. They just decided, okay, fuck him. We're doing an album without him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got the one person who wants to move on and do other things, and the band who, I don't know if they can really move on and do other things.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate when that person who wants to move on and do other things is the guy who writes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spock's Beard ran into the same issue, though they did some decent stuff
Kennedys.
After. Yeah, Dead Kennedys. All right, so on to Brains.
On to Brains.
I really wasn't sure where to land on this one until we started talking about it, and I realized just how subtle the message is, but just how much he hammers it so subtly.
Yeah.
I gotta go 5.
Oh, wow. I'm recommending it, but I'm not going all the way because, I mean, it might be too weird. It just really might be too weird.
Yeah,
and
true.
David Byrne kind of comes across like a Muppet.
A little bit, yeah. But that's part of his charm.
But he's completely on the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
The argument in the IMDb thing was, he's just a pampered rock star. And I was like, wait a minute, this dude just rides around Manhattan on his bike.
Yeah. He's anything but a pampered rock star.
Right. He's, he's out there.
Mhm.
Literally and figuratively.
There's a lot of criticism you can levy at Byrne. He definitely lives his gimmick, to use a wrestling term, but he certainly doesn't indulge in his wealth.
He walks the walk. I'm recommending this, though, so I'm giving it a 4.
All right, and what have we learned?
Wow, there's so much that we've learned from this, actually. Buy local, man.
Yeah.
Shop local.
Mm-hmm. And I learned that David Byrne really needs to make more movies.
Yeah, could you imagine if he was trying to, do some sci-fi or something?
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like he is doing sci-fi.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Without going
trying
off the
to. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, so until next time, when we'll be reviewing Under the Cherry Moon, this is our Prince tribute and, of course, part 2 of our Rockstar Vanity Project trilogy, which is why we're doing Under the Cherry Moon. I mean, obviously, Purple Rain would be the obvious choice, but when do we do the obvious thing?
I don't think Purple Rain's in our wheelhouse.
And also, Prince directed Under the Cherry Moon, so it fits in line with this trilogy.
I mean, Purple Rain was a very mainstream movie.
Very much, yeah.
Under the Cherry Moon was a whole resounding, what the fuck?
Exactly.
That's our wheelhouse.
It didn't do well, but I have a feeling it's going to be one of those movies that we like, but nobody else does. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better.
We could use some more Facebook likes, but you know what? It's important for people to like what we're into.
Of course.
And not just random dudes.
Yeah.
Because we want real people.
Mm-hmm. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed and are going to review, up through 300. Actually, I think it's a little bit past 300, because I've added a couple of movies recently, so I think we're going to count the few after 300 as well in order. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. And, of course, the recommendations list. It's David Byrne. Obviously, for us, it was going to end up on the rec list.
I didn't know if this was going to be obvious or not, because I remember when seeing it like 20 years ago and just being, wow, what's going on here?
I don't know, that's usually a pretty good hallmark of we're going to recommend it. You can email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged, 414-368-9861. We just got another email saying we need to get a call or we're going to lose the voicemail number. So,
oh my God.
If you've been thinking about giving us a call, please do so. Otherwise, we're going to have to do it. And we're going to get, you've heard those messages in the past. You've been listening for a while. We don't want to have to do that again.
So, in other words, you don't even have to call us with something serious.
No.
You could even prank call us.
Mm-hmm.
Something, at least make us laugh, damn it.
But the email came in a couple of days ago as we're recording this, so it's probably going to be within 2 weeks, or like I said, we're going to have to call it, and we don't want that again.
No, would we ever call our own number? That sounds stupid.
Yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't you. It was really some guy named Some Talks and some guy named Shaz, and not me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Of course, always remember that if you call, you will be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
I don't think I've felt this way before.
I know. Me neither.
What is an interesting juxtaposition to that? What is an interesting juxtaposition? Outtake.